Well, I think
You want to just stop that? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good morning. Nice to see y'all. I'm happy that you chose to spend this time here this morning. Please know that you and your precious uniqueness are welcome. Whoever truth calls you to be or integrity demands of you, whatever your age, race, origin, orientation, background, status, ability, identity, you are welcome here. And this door is open in the spirit of mutual respect. Early in the service, I like to ask permission for the people speaking in the pulpit to take their masks off. If there is anyone here that would be uncomfortable with that, I would really appreciate you letting us know. Would you want us to keep our masks on up here? Okay, thank you. We set aside this time together in order that we might collectively elevate and contemplate matters of worth. That's the definition of worship, or at least the original Old English roots of the word worship. We share our insights and learn from one another, trying to encourage each other along our various paths. We believe spiritual maturity is in large measure how we go about living this life. Part of that, too, is understanding that we do not have to agree on everything. We don't have to think alike, to love alike, and to do our best to live reverencing life and the unplumbed mystery that set all of this in motion. Everything sprung, from which everything sprung. We try to have some overlapping topics between these worship services and the children's religious education classes. So we move through what I call seasons of study. At this point in our school year, we are generally on Unitarian Universalist identity. The other topics that we go through over the year are Jewish and Christian heritage, world religions, peace, social justice, and the interdependent web of existence, and personal spiritual growth and development. So we'll move through those seasons. Of course, we touch on pretty much all of them in all of the headings, but right now we've been taking a bit of a sidestep to acknowledge the Jewish High Holy Days. Sunday before last, we did a New Year's celebration honoring Rosh Hashanah and celebrated the birth of Earth, which is part of their tradition, and also do a sharing of apples and honey, which is part of their tradition. Last Sunday we had a skip Sunday and we did Blessing of the Animals, and that's rooted in the Catholic tradition for Day at St. Francis. And then today we are having a ritual of casting off that's really kind of an acknowledgement of the traditions of Yom Kippur, which was this past Wednesday. I'll explain a lot more about our ritual as we get closer to it. And if you did all of you get worksheets from the back of the sanctuary? If you don't have worksheets, let me know. I'd like to give them to you so you can think about it and mess with it during the service, if you will. You can write stuff down. You're going to tear it up and throw it in the fire, so nobody's going to see it. You can be as honest as you know how with yourself. But we'll get to all of that. So I would like to invite our treasurer, Rebecca Tuggle, to share some announcements this morning.
Thank you, Barbara. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you here. Okay, so volunteers, and that's, yes, plural, volunteers of the month, our fabulous All Souls Tech crew, who most of whom are here today. We've got James Peck up in the choir loft. We've got Jennifer Russell over here manning where Susan usually is. And of course, Susan and Steve Caldwell would fall under that, as well as Bennett Upton and various and sundry among us who are being trained as subs. But they are the ones who make the magic happen. Oh, Brittany Turner, how could I forget? I am so sorry. Brittany, forgive me. But the people that make the magic happen, as far as, of course, all of the virtual services that we had during COVID. I know COVID's not really over, but and then, of course, now that we're doing all of these hybrid services. So please, a big round of applause for the people that make the magic happen every single Sunday. Now, give away the plate for October is League of Women Voters for Northwest Louisiana. As many of you are aware, Election Day is November the 8th. Early voting starts October the 25th, but we want to help them as far as, because they do a lot with different candidate forums and things like that. Susan Bettinger, who's a member of this this community is very much involved with them, and so they are our Give Away the Plate recipient. There are baskets stationed up there at the front of the sanctuary. That's where we now collect anything that you are willing to give us, and we greatly appreciate all of that. If part of that is going to be pledge and it's a check, if you would just mark that check as being that, which part is pledge, which part is actually Give Away the Plate. You can also donate online. There will be links for that, as well as if you go to our website, allsoulsshreveport.org. Want to give a big thank you to Eric First and Susan Yellett. They were the only two people here for Building and Grounds, apparently, this weekend. Definitely a big round of applause. And since we're on that subject, and I'm guilty of this too, so I'm lumping myself in this category, more of us need to show up. We are the only ones taking care of this building and these grounds, with the exception of people who actually are kind of tending to the grass, and then tending to the inside, and big thank you to Deborah Warren for that. But other than that, it falls on us, and we've got to step up, and that means me too. Okay. Okay, so thank you for Chris Webb, absolutely. And Elaine, thank you so much. But yes, that means me too, so. And that's the second Saturday of the month, that is Building and Grounds Day. So yes, usually from 9 to noon, we're out here doing something, whether it's cleaning up in here, whether it's doing things out there. Also, we need help with the Highland Blessing Dinner. Now, that occurs on Thursdays. Technically, we're responsible for the first Thursday. We're the ones that host that. It starts at 5 o'clock, ends at 7 o'clock. People start getting fed at 5:30. But basically, it's just helping serve a meal to people who really need it. And more people are showing up for it. This is at the Highland Center on Olive Street. There are more details on the website as well as on the rolling scroll that you see on the video, okay? And that's really all I have for today. Thank y'all for listening.
I did want to mention that the League of Women Voters has a mayoral forum on the 25th if you want to make plans for that. I think it's at the Southern Hills branch of the library? Southwood. Okay, it's at Southwood School. Thank you, Tina. Also, we have differing levels of ability, and there is always something here that can use your ability, your skill, your attention, even if it's just knocking one cobweb off the furniture where you sit. The spiders are very active here, but the groundskeepers that are hired only mow and edge every other week. The hired help or the paid person that cleans inside only does some cursory weekly cleaning, not any in-depth stuff, so that's all up to us too. So, put it on your calendar. Think about coming back and encourage other people, because if you're working with people it's fun. Anyway, there are some other people who regularly come that weren't able to be here this time, and I don't want to say that nobody's ever here, but it gets kind of slim if we assume somebody else is going to do it. So, catch a couple of deep breaths. Relax and let your seat hold you. And let us enter that spirit of worship. Please join me in singing, but remain seated. living life, the shape of justice. Roots hold me close when you set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, in which we live and move and have our being. From that deep mystery we have arisen, though never to utter separation. Still autonomous and willful, we find ourselves dependent on so many things beyond our control. May we find here the courage to manage with righteousness those things which are within our influence. As alone and isolated as we sometimes experience ourselves to be, we nevertheless have the capacity to live within that wonder, touched by what we cannot define. By your presence we are guided. Here we are reminded that we never have to be alone. We awaken one ray of understanding at a time to the support that is ever available from that in life which heals and holds and animates us through the comfort and the chaos, through the hope and the horror. May all of our days, whether pleasant or painful, be adequately seasoned with beauty, awe, compassion, and grace. May we return to our very essence again and again, nearer with each turning to the simple perfection that is our core, the at-one-ment with life. That is the peace beyond understanding. Is anybody willing to help us with our first part of the chalice lighting this morning? That microphone works.
We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together, with mind, hands, and heart, we care for the earth and for each other.
Thank you. You want to light the chalice? Thank you. We light our chalice, symbol of our faith, for truth sought through a questioning heart and an attentive mind, playing with fire, and I missed. And for love pursued through darkness and obstacles inside and outside of our own human heart. And for forgiveness and all that entails. The place where truth and love meet and merge. In a world filled with the darkness of ignorance, let us bring the light of reason. In a world filled with the darkness of despair, may we share the light of hope. In a world filled with the darkness of hate, let us shine the light of love. Would you join me, please, in the unison affirmation? Rise in body or spirit. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the sacred. Thus do we covenant with each other. Our opening hymn is When the Spirit Says Do, and it will be not like when Susan does it. You got to do what the Spirit says. Got to do when the Spirit says. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. So go low. You got to do when the Spirit says. Spirit says do. Spirit says do. Spirit says do. Spirit says do. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you got to dance, oh Lord. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You got to shout. Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you got to shout, oh Lord. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 You got to play when the Spirit says play. You got to play when the Spirit says play. When the Spirit says play, you got to play, oh Lord. You got to play when the Spirit says play. 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 Now, I got more verses on my sheet than you do. So now we're going to grow. Okay? You got to grow when the Spirit says grow. You got to grow when the Spirit says grow. When the Spirit says grow, you got to grow, oh Lord. You got to grow when the Spirit says grow. 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 Now, what else do you think the Spirit's going to tell you to do? Jackson says laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you got to laugh, oh Lord. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. 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 Anything else? Vote. You got to vote when the Spirit says got to vote when the Spirit says vote. When the Spirit says vote, you've got to vote, oh Lord. You've got to vote when the Spirit says vote. 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 Walking. We're gonna do that. I'm choking. You got to walk when the Spirit says walk. You got to walk when the Spirit says walk. When the Spirit says walk, you got to walk, oh Lord. You got to walk when the Spirit says walk. 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 I think we're getting a mighty long song here, Jackson. We got one of yours in, so I'm going to just say the tag of the song of do. Spirit says do. Thank you all so much. I'll probably have to do it here. Now, in some religious traditions, people make what they call a statement of faith or a profession of faith. And with this, they say that they understand or accept a certain religious perspective and belief. They will talk about the individual gods or representatives that their faith is built around. Some people, some religious traditions, feel that making a statement of faith or commitment is something that you can do just one time. And then it kind of doesn't matter what else you do. You're safe. You are a good person. You don't have to worry about what happens to you when you die. Well, Unitarian Universalists don't worry about what's going to happen to you after you die anyway. And there's a lot of explanation to that. But we do think it's a whole lot of importance how we live this life. Some traditions will tell you, you might hear them say something like, once saved, always saved. I grew up in a tradition that said that. And I want to confess that it's a comforting thought. Just whatever that is, somewhere back there, it's a comforting idea. Anyway, after they promise or dedicate themselves to these ideas, making a profession of faith, there are, unfortunately, some people, certainly not everybody, who think that's all they have to do and they can go out in the world and hate whoever they want. And may not see that that's what's happening. But have an understanding all of a sudden that they might be better than somebody else because they see things the right way. Now, we can be guilty of that part too. We can be guilty of thinking we see things the right way and everybody else doesn't. And so part of Unitarian Universalism is committing to growing for our whole lives, because there's always more to learn. There's always more to understand. And if love is the doctrine of this church, there's a whole lot more to learn about loving. In this time of year, when the Jewish traditions are celebrating their high holy days, like Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah and the high holy days between, their tradition tells them that for those 10 days, you're supposed to take time and look back at the stuff that you've been doing for the last year. If you're angry at yourself about something, if you're mad at you and have let yourself down or think you've messed up or whatever, part of this work is to get ready to forgive yourself. Part of this work is to get ready not to overlook dangerous people and not to set yourself up to be injured by someone who might be hurtful, but to find the strength in your heart to think about forgiving those people. And that takes a lot of understanding, and that takes a lot of learning, and that takes a lot of character that we all hope to grow into. But now, when we were doing the services online completely and couldn't meet together, what I told y'all to do was to get a pen and some toilet paper and write down the stuff you've been mad at yourself about or mad at other people about, things that are like carrying bricks in a bag with you all the time. They weigh you down. But you write all those things down on toilet paper, and then you take them to the toilet and flush them. You get rid of them. And you make a point of, like, before you do that, if you have a prayer life, you pray. If you have a meditation life, you meditate on it. If you don't, you spend some time thinking about yourself. And if you're mad at yourself or like yourself and you spend some time thinking about how much energy goes into being angry at other people if you're carrying around anger for other people. When we actually forgive, like if these things we flush down the toilet are things that we can actually forgive, it clears space in our lives for more life energy. So, if you will, I want to encourage you to do some of that this week, okay? Okay? You want to help me sing the kids out? Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
For our meditation this morning, ask that you take a deep breath. And try to be present. Wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
chase the wild things away? Why must we chase the wild things away? Why must we chase the wild things away? Trample and bruise them and rush every day. Hunger so deep we'll risk any mistake. Stop, look and listen, waiting for a sign of inspiration. The muses to appear. Every measured dream to fall wide open and run through the forest, stand naked in the meadow where innocence plays. Innocence runs free, innocence free from fear. Why must we chase the wild things away? Why must we chase the wild things away? Looking for the heart of meditation, the landmarks to return, aching weak as procrastination, and hoping. For every joy or celebration that remains unmarked, we light a candle of joy and community, sharing. Interesting sound effect. Have you ever been doing something that you enjoy or are comfortable with, and all of a sudden notice that you feel more alive, more in touch with yourself and everything that's around you? Has that ever happened to you? Toward the end of yesterday, I was out walking our dog, Baxter, making a block or two. We had walked north for a little ways and then turned toward the sunset. And we went that full block and then changed direction and turned a couple of more corners and headed facing east. And I was noticing, my pup and the neighborhood activities, people working on a house and cats kind of ducking behind things, and the flowers and the Halloween decorations. And I looked up, and all of a sudden, it seemed to me, this big, bright, almost full moon was there. It was lovely. And with seeing it, I also noticed myself feeling more open, kind of suddenly. I mean, the moon was there the whole time, coming up. I probably was up just out of sight for me where I was initially, but it was as though a light had been turned on and it was there rather than, it's making its gradual ascent. Anyway, it was kind of an immediate response. I somehow felt more whole. There's so many ways that we become fragmented in our lives. We may subdivide ourselves between the different hats we wear. We may buy into what feels like our strongest aspects, and by doing that, fail to notice other parts of our spirits that become malnourished or neglected or ignored or forgotten about, pushed aside or flat out denied. Maybe we think we have to do that so that we get stuff done. Maybe we're afraid if we do acknowledge what bothers us, or bother to notice the part of us that's hurting, we'd get overwhelmed. Maybe we think the part of self that's only fed by hikes or yard work or connecting with long-lost friends or meditating or throwing axes isn't that important. When in fact, whatever that is that makes you feel more awake is a really important part of you. Perhaps we're afraid of our own power, or the power of our shadow self. There's a book that I thought had a lot of potential for this congregation in our trying to put together small groups that we were working on before the pandemic. And we tried to continue doing that online some as the pandemic started. They still worked to a certain extent, but they were not the same as being together in a room and having these small groups. Anyway, I have a number of copies of this book in my office, I think. I purchased them before the pandemic settled in because I thought it might really help us understand what those small groups are trying to do. Anyway, the book is called A Hidden Wholeness. It's by Parker Palmer, who's a Quaker educator and lecturer and leader of intentional community, different places. In Parker Palmer's other books, he talks about how he found his way out of serious depression. And he talks about how we might let our lives speak. He talks about finding our real vocation. But in this book, A Hidden Wholeness, he talks about who we become and how we become more integrated within ourselves. And then how we come to make deeper community. How we get deeply connected with powerful, life-changing parts of us and those around us. Excuse me. I love some of the messages in that book, some of the passages and quotes, and I want to share some of them with you now. In part because regaining our momentum after the pandemic, whether it's in our personal lives or our careers or the church life, really does seem to be a struggle for a whole lot of people. And in part because I think these passages offer some worthwhile considerations for our approaching the ceremony of casting off, this ritual of letting go of things that weigh us down. So I'm going to share some of these passages. Quote, "Like a wild animal, the soul is tough, resilient, resourceful, savvy, and self-sufficient. It knows how to survive in hard places. I learned about these qualities during my bouts with depression. In that deadly darkness, the faculties I had always depended on collapsed. My intellect was useless. My emotions were dead. My will was impotent. My ego was shattered. But from time to time, deep in the thickets of my inner wilderness, I could sense the presence of something that knew how to stay alive, even when the rest of me wanted to die. That something was my tough and tenacious soul." Are you able to sense that part of you, that presence, that sense of something that feels bigger than us, but is us, but we're not always tied up with it. We're not always connected to it. We're not always aware of it. Is it noticeable for you? Is it something that you can access when you need to or want to? Another quote, "The soul, or spirit, if you will, is like a wild animal. Tough, resilient, savvy, self-sufficient, and yet exceedingly shy. If we want to see a wild animal, the last thing we should do is to go crashing through the woods, shouting for the creature to come out. But if we're willing to walk quietly in the woods and sit silently for an hour or two at the base of a tree, the creature we're waiting for may well emerge. And out of the corner of an eye, we will catch a glimpse of the precious wildness we seek. That unencumbered part of us, that true part of us that has always been there. Unlike whatever brave faces we may don, whatever survival strategies we may be employing, our true spirits, our souls, if you will, are utterly integrated and whole, full of vitality, awareness, discernment. They're clever and capable without fragmenting, shutting down, being bitter or hateful or unnecessarily aggressive. Another quote, afraid that our inner light will be extinguished or our inner darkness exposed, we hide our true identities from each other. In the process, we become separated from our own souls. We end up living divided lives so far removed from the truth we hold within that we cannot know the integrity that comes from being what you are. End quote. The effectiveness, the impact we truly dream of having on this world, all that goes on around us, our effectiveness is profoundly enhanced when we're completely whole individuals. When we're not having to second guess ourselves or checking the impressions of those around us for acceptance sometimes or approval. That integrated part has an integrity that we only try to have when we're not plugged into that. Another quote, for the good person to realize that it is better to be whole than to be good is to enter on a straight and narrow path compared to which his or her or their previous rectitude was flowery license. We spend so much of our lives not paying attention to who we are, trying to shut out parts of who we are, or ignore what we don't have time for, or whatever the reasoning is. We spend so much of our lives fragmenting from all of that stuff that we've added, like the footprint of Shreveport, we keep annexing stuff. And when we get back to our true self, that road narrows. The way that we want to go is more clear. Like Mary Oliver's poem that Barbara Deger shared earlier, we don't have to get lost in being good. But feeling our true nature is essential for vitality and wholeness. Unburdening from what facades we may carry, cloaking ourselves with the honor of integrity, and integrating the paradoxical aspects of self makes us whole. There's a lot going on around us. There is a lot in this world that needs our integrity, and for us to be as empowered and whole as we can. Here, as we acknowledge the end of the Jewish High Holy Days, this is a good time to make a small step toward our hidden wholeness, to open the boxes of self-criticism and displeasure with others, Name them honestly so that they may today be acknowledged and ceremonially, with clear intention, released. The search for truth is our sacrament. We know truth is ever unfolding, and as such is not the possession of any single claim. Service is our prayer, so serving human need requires us to remain engaged with that search. Loving beyond belief, growing into the whole, beautiful, complete individual that you are, as well as the beloved, powerful, impactful, directed, and collaborative community we continue to become. All of that gains a great deal by our own willingness to invest time in our personal integrity. We may not even know how fragmented we are until such a time that for an instant we feel ourselves whole. My wish is that for you. Barbara, would you like to come do the reading? I'm going to skip the musical interlude there, Jennifer.
If you would, the words or the responsive reading will be on the screen. Also, it's in our book, our gray hymnal, numbers 6 through 7.
And years gone by, we have sung this, but as you may have noticed, our pianist is not here today.
For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again love. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of our separateness, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Just going to sing one verse of this. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Now, if you will, let's make our way out to the front of the sanctuary, front of the building, the back of the sanctuary.
There's slides right now.
As you're ready, you can come forward and put things that you want. Please, not too big of a pile at one time. And each time that happens, we'll say aloud what's on the book. All the extras. Where are the extras?
I got the extras.
Yes, you should. Okay, I didn't see that one happen.
That's okay.
With all I release, I make room for more life. Blessed by the cleansing fire, sacred every human choice. With all that I release, I make room for more light. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every human choice. With all that I release, I make room for more light. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all that I release, I make room for more light. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all that I release, I make room for more light. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all that I release, I make room for more light. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all that I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all that I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all that I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all that I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice. With all I release, I make room for more life. Blessed be the cleansing fire, sacred every healing choice.
Our benediction. Donahue. May all that is unforgiven in you be released. May your fears yield their deepest tranquilities. May all that is unloved in you blossom into a future graced with love. May you recognize in your life the presence, the power, the light of your soul. May you realize that you were never alone, that your soul in its brightness and belonging connects you intimately with the rhythms of the universe. May you have respect for your individuality and difference. And may you realize the shape of your soul is unique, that you have a special destiny here, that behind the facade of your life, there is something beautiful and eternal.
Anyone has things,
That's beautiful.
if anyone has stuff they still want to burn, it's the time to put it in before I put the lid on it.